swing of things to do a meetup every month, and we have core themes and topics for every month. So last month we had a founders meetup. This month we are doing we wanted to talk specifically about reliability in AI agents, right? That's the core theme and topic that we are covering today. And we put together a fantastic panel and a guest speaker who will be sharing some insights for all of you today, right? So that's going to be the broader agenda. In terms of this place, so you got a restroom there to your, you can walk through the door and you'll find restroom. And I think there are water coolers everywhere. We have ordered a very light snacks. At 11 a.m. we'll provide you a quick bite or snack for you to have. And yeah, that's the overall thing. Probably until, I think we have a lot of people registered, a few of them. Yeah, from last. Okay. So you want to go first?
Yeah.
You can sit.
Oh, yeah. My name is Rathi.
Yeah.
Currently I'm working in a company called Logworks for this month, but next month you'll hear me, if I'm attending this meetup, I'll be from Funds India.
From?
Funds India.
Funds India.
Funds India
Okay.
is the company moving here. Predominantly all of my clients are pharma clients and all of them have some sort of a GenAI work as well. Predominantly we have done work for research assistants. That has been our predominant work for all the pharma clients, because in pharma clients, the predominant problem is that I want to reduce the drug discovery time by 1 year, 2 years or whatever. Every 1 year will add 100 million to the cost. So if you reduce by 1 year, you will approximately save 100 million. There we have seen a lot of challenges. I mean, the commercial, whatever you see from NVIDIA or Google doesn't work. Because researchers are very unique people. They are the topmost in the hierarchy of Maslow or anybody, right? So the challenge is being very, very precise. So your commercial models don't work, your annotations model don't work. You have to be very precise in your chunking, annotation, evals. So that has been a predominant challenge for us. I didn't have any specific expectation, but this is a very interesting topic in terms of reliability. Reliability is a very big word. I'm being very open. I don't have any set expectations.
Got it.
And want to network with like-minded people.
Fantastic. Great. And I think you would also love the Karpathi's new auto regression model, like the auto research model.
Oh no, I haven't.
Okay, got it. I mean, it's like many pharma companies are like betting big on that model from Karpathi. So yeah, cool. Thank you again.
Yeah, I'm Suresh Krishna. I'm currently international Dino Dial. We are building voice agents.
Sorry, Dino Dial.
Dino Dial.
Dino Dial. Okay, got it.
So we are building voice agents, as you know, Bhuvanesh and Hemant have the teams. So this is my first event. Participate as
Okay, with Hemant. Okay. Cool. Dino Dial is also one of our sponsors for today. So they're going to be a knowledge partner. They're building voice agents, end-to-end models. We got Hemant, the CTO, so he'll be presenting a lot on his learnings and all that. So fantastic, nice. So yeah, you want to go next? Yeah. No, I'm fine.
Hi all, I'm Ishwar, coming from a company called as Dave, based out of Bangalore.
Sorry, what's it called?
I'm coming from a company called as Dave.
Dave AI.
Dave AI.
Dave AI.
Yeah. It's based out of Bangalore. So what we are trying to do is like we have built a product called as Auto Engage, which is predominantly focusing on automobile industry, dealerships, and all that. So we already have a 5-year experience working with OEMs like Maruti Suzuki, Hero, and all that. So we have got lot of inbounds from dealerships asking us to work on some problem solving on customer facing. So we have built this product, which is a voice agent, which can handle itself and in outbound and inbound calling. We have done some campaigns and all. So in Tamil Nadu, we have been running pilots for around 8 companies. These are all dealership. And it's been like the second month of my pilot. I just wanted to know like what's happening in the voice agent in Tamil Nadu. Since my
and we're just trying to see how we can come up with an AI agent.
Okay.
That will probably be of help for TA folks working in startups. So yeah, we've been doing this for like 8 years.
Okay.
When it comes to the recruitment side for startups. So we have a large data set. So we just want to build our own model, which could probably help TA folks
Fantastic.
with an agent to reduce work.
Okay. So you're building your own proprietary models.
Oh, yeah.
Are they SLMs basically?
Correct.
Nice, very nice. Cool.
Yeah, I'm Santosh. I'm building a AI agent and model for observability and cybersecurity.
Got it.
So I've been into 20 years almost like cybersecurity and
Got it.
observability. So our main agenda is why to have a monitoring platform as a separate one. So
Okay.
we have combined with the coding agent. So if you pass your application, it will migrate your application, which will have a cybersecurity and observability embedded in your application.
Got it.
So that's the target.
So it's observability and cybersecurity for agents, general agents.
No, I'm saying we are building a coding model.
Okay.
You have heard of Codex, Claude,
Yeah, yeah.
everything, right? We are building a layer above.
Okay.
Okay, if you have a banking code, we are working with a bank as a POC, they give their banking application code. Right now, if you deploy a bank application, you have to do a observability monitoring, cybersecurity as another system.
Right.
We used to get 64 GB, 12 core as a separate set of racks. We collect the logs from there.
Okay.
We wanted to converge the system into changing their code itself.
Okay.
Like you would have heard about they're migrating from Java to Python,
Right.
Python to this. So we say that we call right now, we more or less finalizing name as a PIX track. Okay, you convert that to a PIX platform.
Okay.
So what does it do is it takes whatever the application is, Java, .NET, and it converts into our own platform.
Okay.
Completely altogether migration
Right.
with the data migration and everything. And we are like very initial stage.
Got
We
it.
are in a very POC stage. If that works, your system converge.
Right.
Our final objective is it's not that I work for a swift money laundering detection, right? So that's a passive system. For UPI, we have worked with the NBCI. I earlier with VUNet.
Okay.
I have worked with the NBCI. Now, if there is any fraud transaction in our any of the UPI, we wanted to come in line, block it there,
Okay.
instead of somebody collecting the log, trying to
Right,
find
right.
money laundering and stuff.
Got it. Thank you. That's very nice. Okay.
Hi all, my name is Saki. I am building Vatara AI with Lokesh.
Yeah.
So Vatara AI is an evals platform for voice agents.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Rathi. And yeah. So yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I am myself Bhuvanesh. I am also started working on Vatara AI, building voice agents. Before, I have worked in a project called ElevenLabs, which is an campaign sending, email campaign sending project. So I am a little new to this era.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Cool. Pass. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Pass. Okay. I think the pass favor is catching on now. Cool. You want to quick intro, your expectation for the event, and we'll get started. Right? We'll just complete this batch alone, and we'll just get started with Hemant's session. Okay.
I'm say a developer at Cyces. I'm currently working on /and Bigard. So it's a product where we can deploy AI agents to all our workflows for lead tracking, converting lead into like next step and following up there for next steps. So
Okay.
I'm currently working on this.
Got it. Okay. Also
Yeah.
with Cyces. Yeah. Yeah. You can say.
I'm Varun from Cyces Marketing, and I'm working on the GTM part for Slash. As I said, it's an AI agent builder,
Okay.
no code agent builder, where you can bring your own data and build AI agent that suits your business for your context and all.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
Good morning, I'm Nikiraj from Sahas of Technologies, where we are doing some core product email with AI actually. So wherever AI is possible for email, so we are addressing those problems. So mainly one of the use cases we are targeting the e-commerce sellers who receive the email. Their main communication channel is email. So aggregate the email data from the sellers and give them the dashboard. That is our initial product. That's what we're doing.
Got it. Okay.
Hey, hi everyone. Myself Madhavan. I work in Turing I handle delivery. So what we do is we work closely with AI labs like OpenAI and Anthropic. We provide them data to improve their LLMs. My expectation here is to understand where the current LLMs are lacking. End of the day, the LLM is the brain for the agents here. So I want to understand the user pain points, and that would be helping me to pitch more projects to my company.
Awesome. Okay.
My name is Kevin. So I'm in the early stages of AI ML engineer. So currently we are working on an insurance-based healthcare platform So I'm just here to know how to implement agentic RAG in a proper way and know the pros and cons of it.
Awesome.
I'm Ashini. I work as a GenAI consultant at Deloitte USA. So I have been building agentic projects and there are few projects in pipeline. I just want to make it reliable. I want to understand and okay. And this space itself is the founders space here itself is new for me. I just want to join such events and networking. That's the main thing.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm Ashwin. I currently work at Linux. The office is pretty much a floor above.
Okay.
And I work as a data scientist over there. It's a construction tech platform. And at night, I pretty much work as a community researcher at ElevenLabs, also at CTO, primarily focused on multimodality and multilinguality. So with regards to this event, I mean, I was really interested in AI engines and how you are getting to productionize it. Because primarily I do it as an experiment, and I haven't seen it being productionized and how it's state managed and how it's observability built around it. So I probably want to understand how it's being built and how people are getting to work on it.
So myself Kirti Vasan. So I'm currently working as a product engineer at Thiran Technologies.
Okay.
So apart from building applications, I was currently exploring hosting on-device models on mobile applications to perform an offline architecture. So here I have a lot of people to get knowledge from.
Okay, cool, fantastic. I think that's it. We'll get started, right? Because we're already like half an hour beyond our time. So I think we'll start with the first session. Give it up for Hemant. So yeah. So Hemant is like the CTO of Dino Dial, right? So he's the guy you would want to talk about AI all the time, and he will prove every assumption of you is wrong. He's not a believer in AI, but he constantly tinkers and wrestles with it on a day-to-day basis, right? So they're building infrastructure tools for voice agents. I'm going to leave it there, and you don't want to ruin all the suspense. So over to you, Hemant.
Hello. Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Hemant. Thank you for taking this Saturday to come here to speak about like my experiences, how to building with AI. So I'm Hemant. I'm the co-founder at Dino Dial. I'm the CTO over there. And we actually at Dino Dial believe more of this multi-modal vision of this AI layer more than the voice. But right now we are in the voice phase because we feel that you have to graduate from voice, only then you can move on to the multimodal phase of this AI. And the great minds at various great companies are building out the multimodal phase. So it might be ready in some time. Before that, I think getting your hands dirty with the voice itself will like prep you for what's coming ahead. So I've primarily been a computer programmer. I've been a computer programmer. I have written software for a lot of systems, from embedded to blockchain to front end, back end. I've had a wide range of experience in writing software. With regards to AI, Loki said that I was initially very skeptical of how these AI things were going on until 2024. And I would say primarily because I don't understand or I don't have technical knowledge into the internals of how this AI works. I only know there is something called ML and then there's auto-regressive stuff and primarily as a software developer I have no insight into what actually changes when a new model comes. What is the difference between Kimi and Gemini but I have always been on the application side of things, and I believe there's a lot of value in taking something to prod and building applications which you can serve to people, and that has always been a more larger market and a more fulfilling sort of a thing which you can do. So Sonnet 3.5 came out in September 2024. That was when my mind was really blown actually. Like you can actually get someone to code much better than you. I don't want to say a great coder, but I have a lot of experience in code. Sonnet was like something really blew my mind. And then in March of last year, Gemini live models, it's called Gemini 2.0 preview. And Like if you just build a simple orchestration and when you hear it speak, it's actually like magic. It's absolutely magic when you just say something and you get a reply on the other side. So that was when I decided that I have to come, like this AI space is something which is actually truly materialized for someone who does not understand a lot of the internals of ML and whatever is happening inside the model. But if you can abstract the ideas of what you can get from it, you can build great software. Okay, so I was like, I used to work. Prior to this, I was working in a collections company. So the thing with the lending market today in India is it has become small ticket size. So everybody is very aggressively lending for very small tickets. 400, 500 bucks is the EMI or something. When you're doing that, for someone as a collection agency, it is extremely expensive, or it doesn't make sense to go and collect these small tickets. But these tickets are the bulk of the outstanding debt in the Indian market. And it was a very nice use case to actually show that AI can actually take this and try and at least get some sort of identification or some sort of recovery of BTP generation. There were a bunch of terms which we call dispositions on their end. Could be done. And that was when I actually joined and I worked there. I was on the collections floor for some time. I've seen how collections happen. And we were very, once we had some of the initial orchestration built using AI, of sending reminders and finding people and calling them. We actually first wanted to build our first POC for an actual voice agent. So you go to the market, you see what is there on Google search, and some of these very big vendors will come. You go plug them in. Then you will use some sort of the SDKs which they serve. And you install that. Then 1 trillion dependencies, everything will get installed on your machines. But somehow you think something is working and you go, it will go. As always, it will work when you are testing and talking to your colleague. But the moment you go to your boss, it will fail there itself. And I still remember we were like laughing, hey, first get it to talk. What are you saying that we'll automate collections? So, but because I have been like as a software developer, so the first thing which comes to mind is like, what happened? Like, why did this thing break actually? And this is when we find out that this is the situation today of the market, or at least it was 6 months to 9 months ago. There's absolutely no visibility into anything that happens on a voice flow, on a voice pipeline. Okay, so these big vendors essentially will ask you to download the SDKs, plug it in. They say that they give telephony support, but nobody actually supports telephony in India. And everything is, it is not like up to date with what the rest of the world uses. WebSockets and all, they have it because that's what the primary American client market uses. And no visibility as to what happened, like why did this call fail? If I can go and see there's nothing over there. We'll have some sort of dashboard which is populated with some dummy data. And limited control also, the only control that you had also was like the place where you knew you should break the easiest. So the prompt was the only thing that you could control, just everything was up to them. And no support. So like if tool calls used to fail, you won't know what to do. So, but somehow if you are just parsing the logs, you will see some tool ID. And then you will like want to know because you have paid money to these guys, right? So you will say, okay, this tool call failed, why did it fail? And so a very large vendor actually will tell you to go to the Discord group and paste the tool call ID over there. And then apparently they will tell you as to what happened on that tool call, which apparently never happened because they are under a barrage of all these things, systems failing. So the point that I'm trying to make is none of these vendors actually take any accountability for the outcome or for the call that you are trying to make or the money that you have given to them. It's everything there's no support because that is the state of SaaS in today's world. There's no support, there's nothing. You're supposed to raise tickets, God knows when the ticket will be addressed, and there will be a million other people like you crying all over the Discords and Slack groups or whatnot. So just wanted to say some things I felt make sense for people who are actually trying to build in this. So I'm calling it a small brand, but I also think that there's a way out of sort of this. And how does this actually tie into this entire reliability sort of a thing when you're building for AI? So when you go to any of these AI companies or like existing companies, or if you go to their dashboards, everyone's dashboard looks the same. Why everyone's dashboard is the same? Because everyone is using shards here. No one has no one puts even little effort into like understanding of building something different. If you go to anybody's dashboard, you cannot see which company's dashboard are using. Everything looks the same. And so and the way they expect you to share API keys all over the place. You go, you're supposed to click and paste it over here, paste it over there, and the way this AI software interaction is being built right now is like completely insane. For at least for me, I had come from this embedded and this blockchain space. You guys have no idea what is coming for you. The crypto guys have lost all their jobs because their market is dead, and these guys can script like crazy. The people who are like serving, building SaaS applications even today, you will have no idea when these guys will come for you. You all will not, like, I don't want to say you won't survive, but the threat model is completely different from what you all have been used to. So that was just a small thing that I wanted to say. And yeah, so like everybody uses the word AI slop, AI slop. The thing is, we are already living in this AI slop world. The way applications have been built and served for the past decade is like, I actually started off as an iOS front-end and back-end developer before I left to do other things. So when I left in 2015, that time was a time, 2017 actually, and React and Angular, I don't know if you guys know about Angular and all, Meteor.js, and there were 100 other frameworks which used to pop up every day. Now there's only React. Now, like I came after a long time and I saw the state of software is very bad. It's like really, really bad. People are, like if you talk to senior developers out there who have never made curl requests in their life, they don't know what curl is. If you like ask how are you solving your binaries or like obfuscation. What? Bro, I use Vercel, bro. So this is the state of development, and the point that I'm trying to make is when you're building AI applications, you already have the uncertainty of the AI behaving weirdly when it is getting deployed or when you're interacting with it. You cannot have this another layer of traditional software or traditional automation at this state. You cannot do firefighting on two fronts. This was the main problem which I had during my initial problem when I demoed, right? When something breaks, I understand the LLM is generative, so some problems might happen. But you have absolutely no visibility into what broke on the infrastructure. Telephony chats, they will serve the recording, they'll generate a URL for where it is on S3 bucket. But the link won't be to serve it immediately on the dashboard, right? Coming to dashboards, if you go and talk with developers, seniors who are there in software development, is entirely built around this notion of dashboards. Dashboard this, dashboard that, show me this, show me that. This is not the way it is going to be for the agentic space. Most of our bad coding practices is just we are not seeing that because of the tremendous gain in hardware. So you write a lot of slop, it's just that the hardware performs at such a level that it just covers up for everything. But like something like GitHub also is not able to stand up just because agents have started making PRs on GitHub, right? Now GitHub is like in 90% uptime. which is unbelievable actually, for the core code base infra for the entire planet. Most of the front ends for cloud, they also don't work. So the delivery for your AI application itself is faulty. We all have to look at it seriously to fix that. Okay, so I think I'll get my point here. Yeah, it's another thing like the way people are actually leaking, so data all around the place. So if you go and open like in the developer console for any application, it's like your APIs are leaking so much data into the front end. It's just that the front end is not showing it or hiding some of it. That should not be coding like this. Just hiding something, even though the backend has served is a recipe for people to understand like how your system behaves. The another aspect of this is like the way people are programming it. So when people are interacting or using third-party services, the prompt, when you work with AI, you will realize that the prompt and the orchestration, the context that you build around it is actually your IP, because you are getting the model to behave the way you want. But people are leaking it all over the place. They'll share it with some third-party thing. Third-party in the sense will be like, say for example, ElevenLabs or Vapi or something. Okay, you will take some one deployment which I saw. They're actually leaking the prompt even to Twilio. So Twilio is actually taking the prompt to ElevenLabs. So Twilio is seeing a prompt, ElevenLabs is seeing a prompt, and the vendor provider also is seeing a prompt. So this is not the way to actually be doing things. Because they'll be using this only to train their models. So essentially what it becomes is now, in most industries, there is a top-down push for AI adoption. We need to use AI for this, we need to use AI for that. They're essentially shoehorning it into everything, and it's like a recipe for disaster is what is going to happen. I think there have been a bunch of open cloud incidents, and then very recently there was this light LLM incident also. These are actually very serious incidents, and your tokens can get drained very fast, and tokens are very, very expensive nowadays. And this is just the start. Once these AI agents come, it's only going to get worse. I think OpenCloud has already shown that once people get their hands on something like OpenCloud or some automation tool which does AI actions on their behalf, the situation will get just much worse. And initially, like I said, right, only there was a small group of people like developers who knew how to make requests and interact with the APIs. But now that has gone, because you can just ask OpenCloud thing you can just verbally instruct it, and it will go and hammer everything all over the place. And like I said, if your APIs are leaking a lot of data, humans typically won't be using all aspects of it, but an AI will start hitting everything. Your surface area for your backend is very, very large for an AI, and they'll absolutely smash it. But like I said, we were already in the age of stop before this. AI actually I see as something which will come and rescue us from all of these problems, because I think the most valid approach right now would be is if you're building something for AI, you either build something from scratch, or if you have systems, it is better to sit and have them rewritten for what's coming in the front. Okay, so initially, like this is like a meme from many years ago, in which something new framework would come out or some new tool would come out. The developers would be very interested in refactoring a lot of stuff, and so the product manager would tell to the developer, "Hey, no more refactors." And so we had this agile and whatnot for software development. I think this AI thing is very nice. It clearly shows like what is actually possible. You start out with this fully fledged thing and you then dial it down to something. So this was there was something actually quite similar, and the thing that it resonated with me was because when I was like previously building in Ethereum on the blockchains, they had this notion of subtraction. So you start up with something very big and you slowly distill it down to what you actually need. So this is actually a completely different shift from how traditional software development has happened. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but this is just a new paradigm of how you can build things. You start out with that, getting something fully loaded and then slowly distill down. Of course, the distillation process would require that you have taste, experience and some guidance as to how you go about it. But when you already have AGI with you, at least a coding AGI with you, you can learn everything. And you can pick them up as you continue developing, writing code with it. In this, the approach that we at Dino Dial have taken is that we'll essentially in-house everything. We'll write everything from scratch and take it forward from there. Because when we are actually serving AI applications, we cannot be fighting this war on two fronts, where your infra is not working and your LLMs is not working. But just because we are managing most of the products and in-house, it doesn't mean that everything is fault-proof. But the thing is that I want visibility into what has happened. So the big word that people use here nowadays for AI is observability. But observability actually comes from a traditional software development term only, in which people can actually see logs as to what the system is happening, what is happening within the system. And I don't want to share my logs with some other companies, like there are companies like Sentry or something, and people will be actually streaming their customer logs to Sentry and then they will go and pick it from Sentry. So this is something else which we didn't want to do. Logging first and observability first software approach is what we have taken. And keeping in mind that we are actually building for the AI age, okay, it's a big word, but the AI age which is coming, it is primarily that AIs will be interacting with your software. So you can abstract away the interface for how a manager, product manager uses that software, but your backend and the services that you build, right, they have to be built in such a way that they are primarily built for consumption by AI and or agentic stuff. So, and the skills thing. So, from all the tools which has come, you must have heard of MCP and something. I think the one which is finally stuck and I believe will work is the skills. So, if I want someone to use my software or talk to my backend, I'll essentially, instead of giving them this big SDK, you can actually go and give them your skills SDK. Skills SDK is nothing but a flat file which you can actually iterate, and if you push something on your backend or some new feature or come, it is very easy to push it onto the skills SDK and serve it to your customers. AI applications are going to evolve around those who can build harnesses around it very well. So harness is essentially like, okay, I'll give an example for this. So take for example Cloud Opus, the latest cloud models. The one which you use for coding and the one which you use in the front end, right? Both will be Opus 4.6. But if you have used both, you'll understand that the web interface is not exceptional at coding, just like Claude code is. So the thing which has changed is not the model, but it is the harnessing around the model has changed. As to how you control the model for a very specific task. And the big boys have shown that if you understand this idea that harnessing something is more valuable, more effective and more controllable than like going and trying to build your own model or a specific model for doing something, it is much more impactful and much more workable for you to actually try and build something. So I'm not saying that you should not go and build your own small models. If you can, if you have the detail, I should. But repurposing existing models by harnessing is at least for the short term the meta. Okay, so yeah, back to this multimodal multimodal age. So the thing is obviously, like for me and for us at Anvil, it's obviously evident that the multimodal future is where everything is going to happen. This primarily happens because they are unifying the models. If you back 2 years ago, you would have seen that there was one model primarily for images, or one model primarily for this. Still there, because they are good at, some models are very good at it. But if you have used the Janani 2.5 family and OpenAI's models, you would have seen that the same model actually ingests audio, it ingests text, it ingests a bunch of stuff. So these unified models will actually help you to give a unified delivery. So on the same delivery in which you are making your AI application, you can also start like ingesting and delivering audio, video, text and all is already there. But the complete sensory suite can get piped into a single model. The single model will be able to understand this. So like recently, like Janani had this multimodal embedding. Embedding itself is like magic. Multimodal embedding is like super magic. Like you can embed audio, video, everything into the same space, right? So because of this multimodal interactions, and edge inference is coming in the sense that if you have built good harnesses, if you understand how to harness an AI model with some more deliberate effort, you will be able to also harness these models which are going to give you edge inference. So edge inference is on its way. Edge inference means you will be able to run small models on your device or on your laptops. So Hugging Face has already come with this transformer.js and this WebGL. They've enabled WebGL for your browsers essentially. So Chrome was already a superb delivery platform for applications because of its throughput. You can now actually have small models running in the browser itself as edge. And if you understand how to harness it well, right, then you can essentially port it to different models. It's going to come on mobile, it's going to come on the browser itself. And the greatest minds are actually added. So Dennis Asab is like one of the greatest minds in this space. He's actually very bullish on this multimodal thing. The Gemini Live series of models, they've even taken into the robotics model also. So it's ingesting people doing daily tasks and they're training the model. So essentially everything is going to come into a single model, and then there will be tiers of that model based on how much thinking that you want to. Yeah, so I always like to say this, that when I'm seeing AI applications around me, right, it's like why people are not doing this, like why people are not doing that. Maybe 6 months from now, somebody might say the same thing to say, why are you not doing this? So I like to say this, that the future is already here, just not equally distributed. In the sense that there is so much voice in this AI space that we are actually not seeing the pace at which advancement is happening. For example, like this multimodal embedding which I spoke about, right? So it actually shows how far we have come. It's actually unbelievable what is possible on an API call. We have super intelligence already on an AI call, or an API call, sorry. So model actually is commodity. All the big boys have spent billions, if not trillions of dollars on training, and they are going to build all the models for us. Inference is becoming more accessible. Tokenomics is going to be very important. So tokenomics is essentially a term which I picked up on the blockchain space, but when you're building this AI application, you don't get this marginal cost advantage. In the sense that in a typical SaaS, when you used to build software, deploying it to another customer, the price was essentially nothing once the software is built. But once you get AI built into your software, AI interacting or delivering AI services within your application, this AI cost is always there. If you run 10 instances or you run 1000 instances, that AI bill will always be there, it will not go. So one example would be like when we are writing prompts, if we can get say a 12,000 token prompt up to 4,000, it might seem not that much in the pricing for that individual call. But when you are running hundreds of calls, lakhs of calls, this actually becomes a very significant cost which you don't want to pass on to your customers. So that is the main thing. And again, like this harnessing thing, I think most of these companies who are building on AI should actually focusing on this harnessing thing as to how to get the AI to behave the way you want it to behave. Okay, so yeah, back to my experience as to how it has been deploying AI solutions. So it has been a little over 9 months. My system has made like 2 lakh calls, in the sense that 2 lakh connected calls. At times are close to 10 lakh or something. It's not a big number compared to what the other boys are saying that they dial per day, but I think there have been a lot of learning from just 2 lakh connections which were made. So this is primarily for an Indian customer base and for the 4 southern states itself only. I don't know what it is to automate you. They're actually very considerate when they actually talk to you. They're excited to interact. So I remember this conversation in which they had dialed a father and the child also was there. And the child and the father are discussing, hey, is this an AI or not? And the father is saying, no, this can't be. How can she speak like this? But the kid is saying, no, it's an AI thing. So that was one thing which I saw. Latency. So when we always see this AI companies, especially in the voice space, 1 second, 400 milliseconds, some numbers they say. Actually, if you look at it, none of this actually makes sense when you know that how much time it takes for a packet to move. They'll say like inference at 400 ms, time to first token and all. It's actually always pointless in the sense that, of course, latency is there, but these metrics are actually useless for someone who's actually building a voice AI application, because there's a lot of orchestration which sits in between. So when you're talking to a telephony chat, the telephony chat will never say what latency does he serve. Okay, because this is an old infra which works very well. They all give delivery guarantees. They don't say that if you talk if you say something within 100 ms, the other person is going to hear it. So when we demo to management and all, they'll always be saying, it is taking so much time, it's taking so much time. But actually when you hear the end customer calls, right, the people are actually very generous with the thing taking time. So they'll be solonga, Mia, hey, your network is bad, or what? People actually tell, is your network bad? So latency, yeah, I think it should not go more than 2 seconds, but if you are inside 2 seconds, it's actually pretty good actually. And prompt adherence. So when you go to, or when you like read up resources on most of this AI stuff, right, they'll be saying that AI hallucinates, does that, does this. Actually, in my experience, I've observed that that is not the case. If you prompt it well and if you give it the edge cases and the guardrails, prompt adherence is very, very good with the existing models, at least from 2.5 and 4.0 onwards. Okay, so the problems which we had, so initially after 2 months, because even though we knew that our customers were actually, I won't say customers, the callies were not making latency an issue, the higher ups will make latency an issue. Hey, why is it taking so long? Most of them anyway will be on D&D. So if you call them also, hey, why is it taking so long to reply? Okay, so there was this bad dependency. So initially when I was building this system, like the big providers will actually tell you, hey, you can use in-house WAD. We just stream the audio over to you, we will do WAD for you. So we, like, actually it is not that difficult to build your own WAD thing actually. So we got that out and then immediately we dropped to 900 ms to disposition marking. So disposition marking in the sense is what happened on the call. Initially the models were not great at tool calls, So they would not mark something or they would leave something. So the call would have gone, the person would have spoken for 2 minutes, and in the end there was no disposition marked. So then we would require a human to actually go hear the call and then mark the disposition for it. So this was something which was there like around 9 months ago. Then after 6 months, LLM stalling in the sense that again, because it has to adhere to the prompt. If there's something that is not mentioned in the prompt, LLM will just stop replying, will not say anything, and you have to keep on retrying. The other thing is, now tool calling has become so good in the models, just because you have used the right schema and it knows that it has to mark, it will just mark wrong dispositions. So if something didn't happen on the call, or it was not able to get something, but because it was as a required field to mark, it would just mark it and come. So I wouldn't put it under the category of hallucination, but it was just like it's purposely marking wrong because the tool call adherence has become so good in the latest models. The problems which I have always faced is that LLM providers are still unable to take this load. I think it's barely 2% of the software users have come on board, and we are already a very small population of the global population which uses software. And like I said, maybe it's because of the craft which has been built over the past decade. These chaps actually cannot even serve APIs properly. It's like a big problem. Of course, situation is improving from how it was maybe a year ago. But yeah, this is uptimes. Most of the services have started keeping a page where they will say like what is uptime of the service. And if you go and see, at least in Cloud, it will be read at least once a week. Throughput. So they will say that they will let you open 1,000 connections with them. Okay, but the moment you cross 10, 12, you can now see that because WebSocket connections anyway are a little heavy. Streaming endpoints also are heavy. So they are unable to serve big requests if you open a lot of connections at once with them. And the frustration part is like if something breaks, or like if you can see that the model or it is diverging from the spec as to where the events are emitted from it, there is nowhere for you to go and say anything. Like where will you raise issues? If you go to the GitHub and raise issues, they'll essentially mark it as closed or something, and then they won't reply and they'll get marked as closed. Then they'll tell you to provide code samples. Even if you provide code samples, nobody's going to run that code. That will get closed. So essentially, there's no redressal for many of the big houses as to some behavior which is not, you're observing behavior which is not as per the spec which they say is going to happen. There's nothing that you can do. And the last thing which I have observed is because these models are iterating so fast, from 2.5 to preview, native audio preview, and then there's every 3 months there's a bunch of new changes to the model, right? So your prompts are essentially becoming useless. So in that, instead of like trying and reworking a prompt, like we have found that if you just start writing from scratch itself is a much better option. Some examples as to where I just felt that I should share as to how it was when working with this voice models. Okay, so this identity verification, right? When you are disclosing the loan amount to someone, you need verification if that is a person or not. So this false positive thing happens a lot actually. If the model gets past this stage, the prompt adherence for the conversation workflow is very good. But something as basic as this one, it won't work well. Hey, are you Hemant? No. Sir, I have to come to discuss your loan. I just said I'm not. Oh, sorry sir, I'm not. So the model can recover, but this false positive thing is a very big problem which is there in the models. I think an hybrid approach to like doing double confirmations or something might be the way. But I've used a bunch of model providers and I don't think anyone has a solution for this still. The other thing is date issues. People will say, I'll pay, it will be a Wednesday, I'll pay on Monday. Which Wednesday? I already paid 29th February, I'll pay in the year 3,000. So the model thinks all of these are valid. So when just to put date handling into the model actually sometimes becomes a significant chunk of the prompt itself. So you start putting the dates into the model. Say today is 10th of December, this, at this date. Someone will say already paid in the morning, I paid this, whatnot. So getting the model to understand date itself was a challenge, but I think the newer models handle it well. If you just give it today's date. And so this thing, actually voicemail detection used to work very well. But then in September, iOS actually released this thing. I think it was where iPhones would have noticed. If you don't leave the call, there is a small, some sort of, I would like to say an AI widget or something, which starts talking. It leaves the call and it starts talking. And you can see transcripts of the call. So when we are dialing people who had iPhone, it is actually not talking to the person itself, but the small, I think the edge inference model is actually talking to the model itself. So we notice this on calls. So the point why I raised this is that, like I said, everybody is going to have an agent for themselves. So this agent-agent interaction is going to be a very big thing. I don't know how soon that will happen, but it seems to be the logical conclusion of this when the models get cheaper when you have edge inference. These models can't differentiate if you're talking to a male or talking to a female. You actually have to ingest that data in the context before you actually prepare the context. Because sometimes people get really angry if you use, if you call a male a female and always in the gender which you're talking. So something which is so smart cannot say that is it talking to a male or is it talking to a female, because sometimes names like Kiran and all will be same for both. Another thing which we very unexpectedly found is like when we talk to our customers, they like our solution primarily because the voice modulation is very nice. And this is something we just stumbled upon, trying to get the prompts to behave well. So this is an unexpected thing which we have. We have consistently heard that our models, our telephonic calls are like much better than what our competitors have. When she's actually trying to speak the local languages and all. Yeah, so at the end of all of this, we are actually, as a Dino Dial, because of the approach that we have taken on building custom harnessing, building custom software, writing everything from scratch, we are actually very confident of the delivery that we can do to our customers actually. Grievance reversal is very, very fast. We immediately know if the WAD engine failed or the WAD setting is not proper on this, or like telephony was having an echo. We can actually infer that very, very fast, and we have AI automation for call monitoring itself. So an example of this would be if the model is degrading, right? Sometimes the model won't work very well because we have complete access to all the logs. We have a system which actually tells us it's a good time to pause your campaign. Don't be running campaigns. The model is not behaving well. Or another thing would be if people are not picking up the calls right now. There's no point dialing. You're just wasting dialing time calling them. So because we ingest all the logs, everything on the backend, it's a very cheap thing. Which is the point I'm trying to make is very cheap and very effective for us to do all this on our backend. So in this effort of actually experiencing a failed call, we actually went and built all of this in-house. From agent management to orchestration management to observability and everything. We have a lot of prompts and automation, telephony management, multiple telephone providers, multiple voice provider integration and everything. So there's significant stuff which got built out as a result of this custom in-house effort which we were doing. If you want some of these details, I'll take this after the call. There's just a lot of items in this. So this is the final slide, and if you read the slide, it says the dystopia isn't AI pretending to be human; it's humans who are pretending to be machines. So I don't want this slide to come across as someone who is disparaging people who are working in the call center space or who work in the support space. I have actually the contrary opinion, because I was actually sitting on call center floor. You don't want humans to be doing the tasks which they are doing nowadays, most of these people. It's actually harrowing how customers talk to call center employees. You don't want call center employees actually sitting like you. If you knew someone, you wouldn't want them doing this job. It is absolutely terrible. It's pure slave driving from their managers. So you want to actually give them this. This was one of the primary things. I would like to. So there's actually a lot of difference into actually when you take an AI solution to someone. So when you take it to higher ups of a company, they look at it in a very different way. Is my AI mandate being fulfilled? Will I save money on this? And yeah, from whatever they are 30,000 feet level, whatever they see. But since I was in the call center space and I actually saw these people use, then actually the way people deploy this solution is what intent, and how it actually being used is very different. So these people are actually the call center employees are very, very happy to get this, because essentially they will have 400 to 800 people who they have to dial in one day. They'll be sitting and they'll be ringing. Their ears will be constantly buzzing, ring. And they also have targets to meet, that you have to collect this much by this date, by this week, by this month. So this simple voice AI solution for them was something as a filtering thing as to tell me if this number belongs to this person, if he is this person or not. That itself was such a big productivity gain for them, but management doesn't look at it that way. And then lot of our prompting strategies, like I said, this voice thing and all, we actually got this listening to these chaps only. So these call center guys would come and say, hey, why did she say this? Can she say this? If she says this, you will get a PTP close. If she says that, you will get a PTP close. Or you will get a disposition mark to it. Don't say this. This is not how a human would talk. So the way AI software is actually used by the people who it is intended for, and the way it is deployed, right? There's a big difference in that. So, I hope you all deploy AI solutions with this end people in mind, because we have to. There is so much better that these people could have been doing, and a large portion of the Indian market is sitting and doing this. It is not a very pleasant experience looking at these chaps operating. So yeah, that's it, man, from mine. Thanks. Yeah, I'm open for QA.
So, will you please provide some suggestions on how to improve the latency?
So, the first thing, how do I put this? It's very difficult to say this without offending a bunch of people. Okay, you all should not be using JavaScript and Python when you are code. Okay, those are not good languages for you to build backend systems in which you are expecting throughput and latency. Okay, if you are using JavaScript also, I would suggest you use the Bun runtime. The Bun runtime is god tier. Chad really kicks ass in that. So the first thing is that you need to get your backend sorted. After you get your backend sorted, the quickest one would be building your own WAD system. Build your own WAD. It is not that computationally intensive. It actually runs on a CPU very well, and it's also not rocket science. That is the best part. You can do that. Just sit with some ChatGPT or something. You can understand how it works. Definitely, like I would say, at least build that stack, WAD stack, in some other language and build it in-house. Any compiled language will work. Yeah.
I really wanted to know about the hardness which you are talking about. I'm assuming, let's say, your production might be looking like you are having a speech-to-text model first, you are having an LLM to parse the text which is said by the and then the text-to-speech model later on. So these three models might be there, and you might be using LLMs in order to, let's say, understand the text spoken by the caller or the client that you're targeting. And you're using function calls in order to parse and then take the estimates. So where does the hardness really come in? Does it come in really in the text-to-speech or the speech-to-text models, or it's built around the LLM models around? And how are you really evaluating? I mean, there are two questions. One is the hardness, and the other is the evals that you're trying to build around.
Yes. I'll answer them both. So, like, good that you asked this. We actually have gone the speech-to-speech route models. Because, like I said, we didn't know how to manage models in the sense that for voice to work properly, you need co-location. Co-location means what? Your STD, your LLM inference, and your TTS has to be on the same RAM. Okay, so if you can't do this, you can never guarantee reliable delivery. In the sense that this is a cascaded stuff. So STD has to happen, the LLM has to generate a response, TTS has to happen. The problem with this cascaded thing is, if something downstream breaks, the entire run is wasted. Okay, so the best way to fix this is if you have co-location. All the big boys have co-location. Co-location, like I just explained, everything has to sit in one rack. It's like the Docker containers which you expose on the internal network. Okay, so I understood that is something at least 9 months ago you couldn't build, because if you wanted to build such a thing, you could not get GPUs in India, in the sense that even if you went on cloud, GPUs are not allowed in cloud in India. Till last October, Linode, Hostinger and all these providers are not serving GPUs. You have to get them somewhere abroad and all. So that was a problem which was there. So we went this full speech-to-speech route. And because of our larger multimodal vision, we see the speech-to-speech ingestion only as a way forward. So the model might be speech-to-speech because we are specifically speaking the context of voice here, but it's actually a multimodal model. What we said, like this cascaded pipeline actually can't become multimodal model. All the big guys are going to realize this in some time.
What is the model you're using for speech-to-speech?
Janani and OpenAI. With regards to the harness part, so like you understood, there is, and even if you build this cascaded thing, right? Most of the harnessing, it would be like traditional software harnessing. If your first STD failed, you will have some second backup, third backup, fourth backup, which comes. And so that harnessing also is an AI harnessing only, but it's more of an orchestration harnessing. You understand, no? The TT at the time of first token, you have to maintain it. Then you realize that this audio packet cannot be responded. Then you drop the audio packet and you just work on the next part. So another thing which we were deciding was, it made a lot of sense to do this speech-to-speech or multimodal thing, because the big boys are putting billions into getting some outdated design to function properly. So companies like Yellow.ai and all, we're trying this on quite some time. If you have used ICCI and all, is actually voice. They say it is AI, but actually behaves like IVR only. It's so bad. That is because of all these orchestration problems. So with regards to our harnessing is context engineering, tool calling, and because we have our own server, in the sense that we are orchestrating the call, the tool calls don't come outside the system, the tool calls come within the system. So if you use something like Bharathi or ElevenLabs, right? If you want to make a tool call, you have to actually give it an HTTPS endpoint. So the tool call essentially comes outside the system, and then you have to pick this tool callers come from which context. So you are leaking context over there, and then since you are building an API endpoint, you have to do HMAC and all signed keys on that end. But because they don't allow key verification and all. They will just, you have to keep an API endpoint exposed. So all this has come inside. So the context engineering before a call happens, all the orchestration when the call is happening, sometimes tool call might fail. Tool call will fail in the sense that it won't be an incomplete JSON schema. Or it will repeatedly call some tool. Some models are just repeatedly calling, ding, 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 they'll keep on hitting you. So we had this problem with this session notes thing. So we had given the models some sort of localized memory notes for a call. Because what would happen is when you're talking to customers, they will initially say, okay, I'll pay. Then suddenly they'll say, once they realize that maybe they're talking to me or something, hey, but I already paid. So the LLM was actually, because of maybe the way these LLMs are trained, they'll actually never go and say anything against you. Hey, but you said something. No. Okay, sir. It's very difficult to get that behavior out of it. But if we have some notes or something, we are able to find out, but sir, you just said that this is like this. And this used to help us a lot in the disposition marking and call evaluation phase. So the call gets marked as failed because the disposition in the end happened that the customer said that he won't pay. But you will understand that when you, essentially this also boils into the evals pipeline. The customer initially was saying yes, then he said no, and he was dilly-dallying. So the call didn't fail because you wrote something wrong. The call was actually caused to fail from the other end. So this visibility you get very, very quickly because of the approach that we have taken. So, so I hope I answered your question.
I just had a doubt regarding the evals again. Pretty much like you get to have a transcribe of the call in itself and then get to like use another model not to tag, let's say, saying that the person has already answered, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so what I cannot reveal much as to how we're doing internet, but we don't use transcription. Transcription doesn't work because models cannot diarize. Diarize means if you give a model an audio, it is not a dual channel audio. Most of the recordings like a single channel. The model cannot say who is saying what. Actually, last year in November or maybe October, OpenAI released an official diarizing model. So all those people, like whatever logs you see of transcripts on all these providers, right? None of this is actually correct. If 3 people are talking on the call, you'll assume that this person said something. You can actually not go via transcripts. It cannot say who is saying what. It's like it doesn't work. You can check it out. Like take some calls, put with some background noise. In the call center, there will be people yelling in the other centers, right? Doesn't work.
This is regarding the product level actually.
Yeah.
So, currently we are recording or we are storing somewhere, right? These things.
Yeah.
Without user consent, you are doing it because you will get the speech to speech. You will not first. You will not ask, right? Okay, this is the AI call. Okay, is it okay? Because you will not get any consent first of all.
Okay.
So for this field, first of all, will get any threat on the future from the trial level.
Yeah. So with regards to this, the problem, I wouldn't say the problem. The regulations are that somebody can call to trial that you have been like making robocalls and harassing them. But that problem is very easily solved if suppose we take calls from banks, right? NBFCs, go call this chap. When you actually sign the loan documents, you've already signed that you will let them call, record, everything's already there in that. So that is actually not a problem. So sometimes we get these issues that people will say that they were called by robocall, harassment was happening. They won't say that robocall happened, they'll essentially go and say that we were harassed. And then Exoter will give us 2 days to flag that. In that sense, nothing. We just call the NBFC and this chap has said something. So they'll take a screenshot from their CRM, send it, and the case is closed. With regards to data, when you use like paid services like Vertex and all, Gemini and all provide some guarantees as to what is being done with the data.
One more question also, how the Truecaller is blocking the call.
Yeah.
And even nowadays, even the next version of Truecaller is detecting the AI call itself. There's some apps.
Yeah, so that's an arms race which is always there. And my assertion is, if it is going to become so bad, you don't want humans to sit on it. Because if a human also will call, he will call from this 160 number only. So the human will actually be sitting most of the time. So you actually want AI is going to take the calls. It's actually a bull case for AI. That you don't want humans to be sitting on this. You only want humans to be sitting on the confirmed calls and all. And if you go and look into call center operations, they know how to handle all of this well actually.
One of our customers, the real estate customer of the US, we deployed things and all that, it was working fine. We were using Gemini. Suddenly Gemini goes down.
Yeah.
Business operation stops.
Yeah.
They come back to us and ask her what is the reliability, when is the update, or
Yes.
we don't have that.
Yeah.
So here, even though you're saying build everything in-house, which is basically take control of the VAT, take control of the harvesting layer and other things. I cannot take control of the LLM here.
Yes.
So is it just a backup LLM that you opt for, or do you have some other thought process there?
So for us, it is more of communicating with the customer what went wrong. And we also knowing quickly what happened. So, like I said, in that slide there was this frustration part, right? Like LLMs are still not, LLMs are pretty good. The delivery of an LLM service is not that great. And when it goes down, right now our approach to solving this is at least we figure out what happened quickly and then keep them posted. Like I said, we have intelligence within the system, right? So we'll just tell them stop dialing calls or take corrective action. Yeah. First we come to know, then we push it forward to them. I have, I don't know, like, how can we get the big guys to actually respond to this?
If I optimize my stack for Gemini,
Yeah.
there is no way I can optimize the same stack for
I would not say that if you optimize it for Gemini, you cannot take someone else. Like during our first version, we had built something specific for them, but when we realized that we want to use OpenAI real time and ElevenLabs agentic stuff, RP agentic stuff, you can actually abstract away the software layers to be generalized for any person who provides an audio pipe to you. You can build software like that.
Like, are the current models good enough to differentiate between profanity and abuse over call?
Yeah, the current models are very good. And even if you abuse them, right, if you prompt them, they will actually manage the situation very well. They know if your conversation machine knows how to walk through guardrail of having profanity on it, it can manage it very well actually.
This site 3.1 has emotions. Gemini. The recent one, 2 days before, it has emotions.
They have the speech-to-speech models are actually emotion aware. It's something which gets lost in the cascaded model.
Since we talk so much about harnessing,
Yeah.
from a philosophy standpoint of design, how do you bring in scaffolding into your system? I mean, do you build, you think about scaffolding and orchestration parallelly? How do you design these systems when you are thinking about it? Do you approach scaffolding first, orchestration next, or do you pre-orchestrate your thought and then build scaffolding for your harnessing? How do you structurally figure this out?
Yeah, so since I'm the one who's calling the shots over here, I'm not the one who actually builds planning everything in the first phase because of the way we are interacting with LLMs, right? You will eventually realize that, for example, if you're opening a WebSocket connection with them, sometimes they won't follow the spec which is written in that. So the harnessing is not built, I would say, rigidly from the beginning itself, but we keep in mind that we might want some sort of harnessing like this based on what visibility and orchestration I want to do on the system. So it's fluidic.
And how about the scaffolding? How do you scaffold what you harness into the system when you orchestrate?
Sir, could you please tell me what you mean by scaffolding?
Like typically, when you, for example, what you have the ability to lever your LLM to do what you want to do is harness, right? Build a system around it or build an agentic approach around it is actually scaffolding, right? How do you connect them together to be able to do something that an individual LLM cannot do? So if you then build them together, piece them together. You're essentially orchestrating the
Okay, so
workflow, right?
okay, so I understand. So we are. I firmly believe in tool calls is the way to go. So the way the LLM is interacting in my system is via tool calls. So I will scaffold things, thinking that things are going to happen via tool calls, and then this chain of these tool calls will happen. That is the way the entire orchestration I am taking it forward. So tool calling is something. So in between two calls, in between the tool chain getting propagated, right? There is also an LLM which sits over there in between. So it's like a mix of both. It's not like a completely deterministic thing because, like I said, sometimes when they call the JSON schema, things might fail. And an example of this would be like Gemini's JSON schema is actually a small subset of the OpenAI JSON schema, not the exact JSON schema. So if you want it to work very well, you'll actually sit effort and code the orchestration slightly to match that. So there's a lot of LLM specific work which goes also. That's why I said it's a little fluidic when you see what are the failure points, right? Then you start adding some extra stuff into it. Yeah, anything else?
When it comes to handling vernacular languages, like what kind of advice would you give while prompting?
When it comes to handling vernacular languages, what I would suggest is that you can try romanizing and try using the scripts, in the sense that for Hindi, Devanagari works actually pretty well. I don't know what the script in Tamil is actually called because I'm not from Tamil Nadu, but maybe that effort could actually work.
Current issue that we are facing is pronouncing the word.
Yeah, so with regards to pronunciation, we also had that issue. So like pronouncing company names also usually like.
So the numbers is a bit hard when it comes to
Yeah, so you can actually make pronunciation guides, and you can actually, based on what context is getting injected, right? You can have a system which looks up what a pronunciation, like if you want to spell your name Ishwar, okay, it doesn't hear it very well. You can actually have a lookup, and based on how many contacts you take, right, you can start building these pronunciation tables offline, and you inject that in the right time into the system. It might seem like a lot of effort, but it's an effort which compounds in itself. This is what we have taken because from the LLMs understand these pronunciation guides very, very well. You can try that for your name, then you can try like the script which you want it to.
Sure. So I'm just going to abruptly cut. So we will take all your questions with Hemant offline. He's a fantastic guy, as you might have seen, and he'll give you all the questions, answers to all your questions the most brutal way. So give it up for Hemant once again. Fantastic session. So we'll quickly break, right? So towards the end of this small aisle, there is a pantry. We got some coffee and tea.
That we as an organization can benefit out of it. Earlier it used to be like one like more relatable than how you guys
We just get started with the second session, right? So it's like I'm super excited for this because it's a star-studded panel, and I've like personally known most of the people in this panel. And the reason for this is we want not just classes, or like we don't want people just educating about things, but also talk deeply about production grade challenges. So that is the core theme. And so we got so we'll start from this side. So I got Imaya. from Ravenmail. So he's one of the founding AI engineers who's constantly working on email security and how we can bring AI agents into it, right? So he's on the panel. And next is my former colleague at ElevenLabs, Pranav Rathi. So he's a lot of experience deploying AI agents at enterprise and mid-market customers across India and the APAC. So that's Pranav. And I let this man introduce himself. Not this guy. Okay, he's dangerous one. Okay. So, and this is Bhuvanesh. So he's Bhuvanesh is CTO of VoxyHealth as well as Clenty. So Clenty is our official sponsor for today. So VoxyHealth is doing voice agents, and so that's Bhuvanesh. And then there's Janani. Janani and I have been working in Navana. I used to be a consultant there. So Janani is a product manager for the company for Navana, building voice models, speech models. So we got two people representing infra level companies. So one ElevenLabs and Navana. They are building infrastructure that would help you build voice agents. And then we got two other people building voice applications on top of it. So infrastructure is the core base of every agent that you want to build, and the app level people build on top of it. And again, there is Avinash, who is a CEO and founder of Dino Dial, and I feel he's the right person to moderate this group because he's equally a believer and a non-believer in AI. But then he's also very bullish about end-to-end models, speech models, right? As opposed to cascading models, which all of them represent. So it's going to be a fight, but it's going to be fun. I've requested them to keep it very, very normal, the conversation, and I think Avinash will set precedence for this panel and he will take it from there. All right. And give it up for the panel once.
Thanks, Loki, and thanks for also taking away part of my job by completing the introduction. So now I don't know where to start. Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much for taking time out on a Saturday morning. This means a lot to us. In fact, when we had a huddle before this inside the room there, we were trying to see how much the kind of responsibility that we have to sort of
So at this time I'll probably be still sleeping. So weekdays would mostly be the time to sleep, or anything else would mostly be around work. So weekends are where I shut down, and if not, anime. Those two things.
Yeah, I think if it's Saturday, Sunday morning, I can become a pickleball tournaments and pickleball together. So yeah, it's my workout in the morning. Okay, so most Saturdays for me are sometimes office. So you see hiring happening there. Probably today I'll be here doing the hiring part. If not, I'll dabble some building. I'll experiment with something that has come out new. Most Saturdays go like that, yeah.
I mean, on most weekends I play badminton. Otherwise, if I do have like a party Friday, then I'd probably be sleeping still.
Oh, cool. So I just thought we'll also try to understand our audience a little bit. Maybe we'll open up a bunch of questions to see their experience before we jump straight into what we wanted to discuss about. Maybe a quick show of hands. How many of y'all have tried building some sort of AI tools or dabbled on in the agentic space? Maybe a quick show of hands. That's quite a lot of builders. How many of y'all are skeptical but have just been an enthusiast but have still not tried something? Okay, I'll get to you guys a little later. I built an agent and my agent hallucinated. Show of hands. And this can include the panel. And so that's precisely what we would like to cover, because I'm sure the internet is sort of flooded with topics about moving from a deterministic software framework to a probabilistic era. And we all know that this technology is so much has so much potential to deliver so much outcomes, but for some reason it also is a curious mix of intelligent and a dumb being, right? And today's discussion is predominantly going to be around shipping reliable systems, the hacks and the tips that we all learned, by being in the deep end of the trenches, facing all of these awkward moments in front of the customers and all of that. So I think the first question, if you notice something, we have a very diverse set of leaders in our panel. We have people ranging from sales GDM functions, someone in product, and someone who is leading technology, who has to also now interface between the board and then you have a bunch of people problem managing your team, and then you have to also manage customer expectations in terms of delivery. And again, Imaya, being a founding engineer, you are now sort of put against these generative models and getting them to work and also delivering solutions, right? So that was the whole point. We firmly believe that the existing playbook, the classical software business playbook, is sort of completely scrambled, where different departments and functions within an organization is now constantly fighting for their fair piece of the prompt layer, right? That was the joke that we were making. So I think let's probably start. You want to take a jab at PRD itself, right? How do you sort of start with spec? This is my question.
Okay, so we were having this discussion inside as well before. I was talking about how the prompt has become your spec, right? Previously, when you write a PRD, it's about screens translating into actions on the UI and how it interacts with the backend. All of this get detailed out so much, and before they get to face a user, right? Now all of that is changed into just text, which is prompt. If you look at it, your entire prompt is your PRD on how the AI should act. I don't want to get too technical, but yeah, there are a bunch of tools that you can attach to an agent, which ensures the LLM finds the right tool to enable an action and so on, right? So your prompt is your spec, and how do you ensure that whatever thinking that you had put in for writing your PRDs get translated as a prompt, right? Prompt is just text. You have to accommodate whatever I mentioned, the UI action, how does the backend act, all of that into just a prompt that will ensure that the intent for the agent is captured. You guys, I'm not sure how many of you have experience with agents. Anybody who's felt that the spec that you're building out as prompt has become too complex that it cannot be done? Has somebody faced that here? Yeah. So this change in thinking is something I feel that everybody has to adapt to when you're building agents, and there is no getting away from it.
Thanks for that, Bhuvanesh. And I'd sort of like to take this question forward to Janani as well. Right? Earlier, product teams or product leaders' responsibility was to sort of interface between human behavior and building workflow solutions according to that. Now entering agentic age, where the software is also completing tasks for you, right? So now you have to now harness agent behavior. And how do you see that sort of taking shape, and what is the significance of a product leader when it comes to owning critical parts of the problem layer?
From a working perspective, I think collaborations have improved in terms of how informed I am before going to another team member for working. In that sense, the way it translates to how my product functions is because it's because it's probabilistic. I have to build product in a way where my team can always be informed, or I have observability into how it's working, or have a way where it's measurable. I think that becomes the key part to then innovate and build on, and that is something that's consumable both by designers, by product managers, by end clients as well, along with the developers who's going to be constructing product.
Thanks for that. And Imaya, you want to take a jab at this?
Yeah. So, in most sense, if you want to have a action that to be taken, it's completely into owning that action, right? So, ownership and looking at it from a holistic perspective of how things gets done within your within the boundary of your work, as well as within the organization's boundaries, where you will be able to excel at this point when it comes to taking a look at it. And yeah, I think if you translate this, you could translate this into simply having a high agency ownership.
Got it. So, I think my next natural question is like moving towards the whole topic itself, right? Like, how do you sort of ensure reliability into the systems that we are building? So, anybody would like to sort of maybe share a reliability framework that has worked for you guys, or is there a hack that you have figured out to ensure that it's not too much of a wild west? Anybody in the panel would like to take that?
So just for context, we at Navana, we're building voice agents that automate BFSI functions, like for example, doing lead generation, calling, collecting back loan amounts, stuff like that. So one way to naturally solve for reliability is to not let loose of the reins. And even though a system today, an agentic system, is capable of going wild, handling things, maybe having a really engaging conversation with the customer, that's not the goal of the solution. So I think it needs to be used in a more just way and judicially, I mean. So hold the reins together so that it's also observable enough for the team who's building it. And secondly, when you do put out a system, even though you have guardrails set in place in terms of giving it a direction to move forward with, there is still hallucinations, there are still aspects of natural language that fail. And definitely, I think India is like a crazy market that way, where the unpredictable is immense. Like we get calls where people are literally talking in the middle of the road, like in traffic. And a human can't understand what it's saying, but an AI system can, right? So it becomes quite hard to even figure out how to solve for something like that. So definitely having humans in the loop is the best way to go about it. But again, it fails at scale. So we've implemented flagging systems, internal evals to be able to solve for it. I'm sure we'll dive deeper into this further in the conversation, but yeah, that's
Okay, so to take the question, I'll answer it in two parts. One is the why, right? Why is reliability important in AI? Right? I operate in healthcare product that I'm working for, VoxyHealth. It's a US-based healthcare product, voice in US healthcare. And in healthcare, you cannot make mistakes, right? Say, for example, there are strict regulations in the US saying if AI cannot answer clinical questions, right? So somebody asks about, I have a bump on my head, the AI cannot say it's cancer, and that will be no problem, right? So that's the why part. So there is no room for mistakes. That is one. So how far we have a proprietary solution. How do we solve for the reliability? Is actually we ensure that if I'm going to go on a bit technical. So in LLMs you can attach tools, right? So and if you are attaching say 200 tools to one prompt, it's obviously going to overlap with multiple other tools, right? And if that happens, the AI is bound to make the wrong tool call, and you're going to have a problem for sure. So how we've solved this to ensure that any agent that we have has limited number of tools that it gets attached to, so that it's able to make a decision that is mostly correct. I'm pretty sure Imaya will touch upon it as well, but that's how we are going about it.
Just want to add what we did with respect to reliability. In ElevenLabs, I think one of the biggest problems is when we deploy agents, you need to get a certain output out. It could be conversion percentage, it could be resolution rates, and all of that. So what we've seen is most of the first-time agent builders, they take one, let's say 500-page prompt, put it in the system prompt, and expect the AI to perform miracles. And we've seen this happen in banks, we've seen this happen in most of the places. I think if I give you an encyclopedia and ask you any question, the chances are you could also fail at it. So the way we've done it is when we create agents within ElevenLabs, we try to break the agent down into different workflows and have each workflow or each node a separate prompt with separate tool calls. Thereby it's more reliable. You know if it, let's say a certain condition isn't met, to move to another agent who's supposed to handle another piece with another tool call, another system prompt. So instead of having one huge 500-page system prompt divided into, let's say, 50 pages and 10 agents connected together. That's what we've done to basically handle these sort of situations. So that's number one. And the other things is how do you make it more better? You can choose your voice, you can choose your brain. For example, if it's a receptionist, a Gemini Flash will do good. But if it's your manager if it's going to get escalated to your manager who's an agent, you want to put a ChatGPT 5.4 which has a more logical reasoning. So this is how we go about making it more reliable, especially in ElevenLabs, with respect to not having one agent with a huge system prompt, but dividing it into some agents and connecting all of them together with different brains and voices as well. So yeah,
so I'm gonna come at it from an implementation perspective. So I think coming from a different background, we mostly deal with text as a primary medium of input. So what's going to happen when you are trying to, I'm trying to give an example and then provide a thinking framework around that example so that you would be able to follow, or you would be able, what works for us might work for you. And it's purely from the experimentation perspective that you try this experiment, if it works, great. So let's say you have a problem of doing customer reviews. For some reason you want to do customer reviews with LLM. You take a review, give it to LLM says positive. The next iteration LLM says negative. The unreliability of an LLM comes in at this level where for a simple positive, negative, neutral review, it is not able to give the same answer at every iteration. So this is a primary problem. Now, you can tackle it from two sides, right? One, you can tackle it from the data side. You verify whether the data is that nuanced that the LLM is not able to find what is the proper sentiment is. Or you tackle it via the way that you approach the LLM with this data, which is you try to build your eval system in such a way that there is no non-deterministic output from the LLM. So these are the two sides to it. So now the next thing is, if your data is not controlled by you, for example, in customer reviews, data is not controlled by you, customer can write any sort of review that they want. So now when that goes out of the window, the only way that you would deal with this reliability from an LLM perspective is to tackle it from the way that you handle your LLMs, right? So now you build your evals as much as possible, but still you are getting unreliable output from the LLM. Now the thinking framework here is define your task in such a way that the task has multiple outcomes and the LLM is free to choose multiple outcomes. So when you look at it from going from software engineering to ML to LLM era,
people will always think that a customer review can have one sentiment. That's your foundational problem. The LLM should have the freedom to choose between a review that says, for a review it should also say that I think this is positive as well as neutral. It should have that choice. Now that proposes a problem to you because you are expecting single response from the LLM. So it's your job to solve from the side of, even if my LLM gives more than one output, how do I make it into a binary output? You need to build harness around it in a way that you are able to get multiple detections from the LLM. At the same time, you are able to choose the right detection out of the LLM's output. How do you do that? You try to get the confidence. If you are working with OpenAI, I think in this space, OpenAI is doing a really good job because they are providing log probabilities. I think I'm going a bit more technical, but feel free to ask questions at the end when we get time. Feel free to ask questions at any point that I'm describing. So OpenAI is providing log probabilities with which you could actually define a confidence interval for your LLM's output for any given task. So at the base layer, from an LLM making a decision, this is how we could tackle reliability. The thinking framework is try to give the model a freedom to play around, and from that set a boundary in which you would be able to make your decision.
Thanks for that. Like, love that idea, right? How you could sort of convert a spectrum or like a grayscale into a binary system so that like decision making becomes a lot more simpler. Say either a yes or a no or a 0 or a 1. I think that's a very interesting mental model that like anybody who's trying to solve the deterministic layer on top of this should think about. Alright, like a quick sentiment check. We're not selling this panel to be AI humorous or something like that. We would wanted to all keep all the conversation that's happening here as honest as possible, and to also give you reality checking, in terms of what's happening in the industry, right? Now, Pranav, I'm going to put you on the spot, right? Which is the conflict between the guys who are selling and the guys who are building. And my question to you is about expectation management, like setting the right expectations when you are facing the customer, and how do you sort of manage that when you have an engineering team or product team who's coming after you for selling?
Okay, I'm going to be very candid. We do what it takes to close the deal. We have to lie at times, we do that. But once the deal comes in, especially in India as a market, and if you look at the AI ecosystem, it's mostly the way it works is land and expand. So you land at, let's say, $1,000 MRR, and then let's say if they're paying 10,000 or 12,000 ARR, how do you take it to 400,000 ARR? That's where I think the product team really helps, along with whoever the account management and the AE is. So even if you have a 1K MRR customer, the way is, for example, I'll take an example of Mahindra. So today Mahindra launched 7XO car, and they had a very simple feedback that today our human team does 50% conversion. This is the cost per human. We would want to reach closer if AI is doing it. So 7XO, we did all of the, if you book a 7XO in the website, all of the calls are done by AI today. And if you look at it, we reached, after a lot of back and forth and everything, we reached 30 to 40% of conversion rate. And when you calculate that cost of human versus cost of AI, it works really well. So ideally, in the initial stage, expectation setting is not very easy. You need to do what it takes to get the deal in, somehow close the logo. Post that, how you take the customer from 10K all the way to 500K ARR. That's where you start showing small wins, set expectations with the product team that this is what we need to do, this is the scale which is required, and then you reach it. So that is the that's the most ideal GTM outlook, especially what we're doing in ElevenLabs. That's what is being working for the India market.
Got it. Now, I think that's, it's essential for sales and GTM teams to be super bullish. Sometimes navigate, because there's no playbook, nobody knows what is the right solution that fits the market at this point in time. So you sort of sometimes tend to oversell. Now I'm going to start a war between you and the rest of the panelists here. Does anyone want to, if you can free to sort of not answer this question, but I hate my sales team because they sold something impossible and now I have I have this challenge to solve for. Is there any incident like that you guys have faced, or how did you tackle a situation, a difficult situation like that?
Yeah, so whatever Pranav just mentioned actually happened with Voxy, right? When we signed ElevenLabs, I signed it at $1,000. Currently, I'm spending about $15K per month on ElevenLabs. It's and from our standpoint, whatever you mentioned, Venkat isn't the CEO of the company. Actually, isn't the US selling. There are so many use cases that they want to solve for, right? And when you go in front of a customer and when they ask for something, you cannot say I don't have it. Right. They have to sell the product. Right. So I am able to what do you say? I'm able to think or understand what Pranav was saying because that's how you bring in the business as well. It's not I don't have a problem with that, and with AI also we are able to build faster. We've had customers where we promised a feature and that goes out in 24 hours. It has happened as well. And that happens with AI, right? Without it, it's not going to be possible at all. So, as an engineer, I know it is tough, and in principle, I have to disagree with them, but I understand the business as well, so I cannot.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, it's an everyday war here. Even though I think what customers bring in via the GDM or the sales team is very valuable feedback about how they work and what the expectations are. Where I think it sort of shifts is a lot of customers, I think, would be a challenge for you definitely, but they go through POCs which are super shiny about how these voice agents can work and what all like crazy things they can do. But if you really think about whether it's required in production, do you really need it? Maybe not. But that's where GDM teams have to navigate and maneuver through pretty cleverly, where they cannot say no, but it doesn't make sense either. So when it comes to product team, I think the way we review it is, okay, how valid is it? Is it even making sense for the product? And we approach it from that perspective. And because the end goal is to get to the outcome that the customer wants. And if we are meeting that, then no questions, right? So that's how we do it as well. But till date, any customer requests that comes in, we do take it fairly seriously because it's really, really good learnings. And that domain richness and understanding isn't something we have as technical builders, but that's domain knowledge that comes in from customers. So that's like a fine balance we're working with as well.
God, thanks.
So I can provide a differentiate here in the sense, coming from a startup which is 2 years old, these sort of the places where the sales team promises something and then comes back to and says, okay, we have done this and we need to deliver this, will actually eventually lead to a product vertical altogether. So this is a case where government suddenly decided to launch the DPDP Act, which basically says that any BFSI industry talking to a bank should purge the emails and the data that are related to the bank, that the conversations that they had historically. Meaning, if someone has started to transact or connect with the bank regarding some detail for 25 years, all those data has to be purged or all those data has to be accounted. So we went into a conference and we came back with a new vertical called historical DLP or DLP hunter, as we'd like to call it internally. And we basically said that, okay, we can build it. And the way that the competition was playing is, we will take 3-4 months or 6 months to build it, like companies like Zscaler and others. Whereas we said, give us 1 week and we'll be able to build it. We built it, we got the contract, and we were able to successfully execute, and it's one of the highest margin contract for us as well. So these sort of things helps us in places where you are hungry for it, and cultures in place where you are more big and you put a structure in place, you put a system in place that the team is working as a whole. Whereas if you want to introduce something new, it will actually create a traction or it will actually create some infractions in between so that the team feels something coming new at this point in time and delivering it at this much time capacity will feel like a burden at one point. So it depends on where you stand and what zone or what timeline you are in.
Interesting. Now that you brought up DPDP Act, right? So far we've not covered about regulatory nightmare at all. But I also would like to take a second to share this interesting conversation that I had with a friend of mine. So again, BFSI use case where you're dealing with delinquent folks, right? Like these are defaulters, and now you need to somehow go get your money back, and now these like financial institutions are in a place where they need to protect their data. And one of the collection leaders of a top bank casually passed this comment in an event which I attended, where he said, collection agencies are our friends, they're in fact doing a favor for us. Now if I'm going to say that you need to get a consent from a defaulter before you reach out to him, you're actually making his life a lot more easier. So what do we do about it? So his comment was like, we have to figure out a system where even if the user doesn't provide us consent to reach him out, if he says no, don't contact me, you have to figure out a way to sort of register that as a yes into your system. So yeah, that was funny. And of course, there's a lot more regulatory challenges that we're envisaging at this point, and we're super early as far as both from tech maturity and an adoption standpoint. So that sort of pulls me into my next series of questions. Now we thought we'll move this up by a notch by talking about evals, and Bhuvanesh spoke about how evals is the new testing. I mean, all of us are from the classical software world to now we are moved into the AI space now, and you want to throw some light on how evals is the new testing?
So quick show of hands. Who understands what evals are? Everybody does. Okay. So I'll since there are not many hands that understands eval, I'll quickly tell what an eval is. Right. An eval is an answer whether a conversation between a human and an AI, how did that go? Right. You can do those in two parts, either before the conversation has happened or post. Right. When we started out, I'll be very honest, we didn't have a eval framework because we had a customer before we started doing it. So that's one reason I told you it's a very tough question for me to take when you first told me, right? We were doing post eval, and to explain why eval is the new testing, right? I just spoke about PRDs, right? When prompt is your PRD, eval is your testing framework. Because there is no traditional E2E test that you have to run, there is no unit test that you have to run. There is, there is no SRE who's ensuring, at least at the UI layer, there is none of this exists, right? But you have to ensure that your AI is performing well, and eval is the answer. There are a bunch of eval tools that are out there already, open source, paid tools, all of that, which are directly able to plug into your framework and do the testing for you. We have a proprietary inbuilt solution that does this. We've already built the post call eval framework, and it gives us reports on what are the parameters that have to be measured to ensure that AI is doing good, alerting, monitoring, all that, right? we are also moving into the world of when a new agent is getting built. How do you define your eval? What are all the things you have to ensure that the AI has to perform well on? We set the framework. We are currently working on it. We have not done it yet, but that will be the pre-call agent testing. So, yeah.
Alright, so just for the benefit of everyone, so I thought I'll quickly pull out an example to help you all understand what evals exactly is. Let's take an example of a real estate sales agent where somebody is calling your business and they're asking for a 1 BHK, and your agent quickly checks the database. It doesn't find a 1 BHK and it returns an answer saying that there is no 1 BHK available with us, unfortunately. So once I have something, I'll probably reach out to you and it closes the loop. So in an ideal scenario, the agent behavior was perfect. It quickly did its job and it closed the loop. But if you take this to a human sales agent, he would heavily disagree with it, because anybody who's done sales knows that customer most of the time won't know what exactly they're looking for. So if you ask a human agent, he would say that you should ask for their budget and see if there is a 2 BHK that could fit into the budget. You can actually ask if the client could actually stretch their budget by pointing out a couple of advantages that the property has. So that is a subjective sales quotient that comes to that, right? Evals doesn't mean my agent didn't behave wrong, my agent was polite, and those are generic stuff that of course you have to do for every single conversation that you're monitoring. But every campaign or every conversation is extremely subjective, and it's not just objective problem. You need to dive deep into subjective aspects and somehow define these metrics, right? Like figure out a way to measure if the problem has been addressed or not. So that's maybe that I'll give you an example of why evals are so important. And my question to Janani would be, I know you're super bullish about runtime agent improvements and evals, right? Bhuvanesh mentioned about post and how they are looking at runtime as well. I want to understand what is your expectation when it comes to these continuous agent optimization loops.
Firstly, the reason why evals are super critical with voice AI or in a highly regulated industry like healthcare or BFSI is you're doing voice calls, and it's the only way to really look at what's happening in the call is to listen to it. Like, that's common sense. Now, how do you then do it when there are not 100 calls done in a day, but lakhs of calls done in a day and done in say 10 different languages, which even the client team or your team for that matter may not have the language proficiency to do so. So when that happens, you really need to break it down into parts where you can understand what Imaya and Bhuvanesh were talking about as well, where it needs to be put into a format where anyone can look at and understand where it's going wrong, how to fix it. So we also approach the problem in these two parts of pre-production eval and post-production eval. In pre-production eval, the aspects to evaluate are, one is your speech layer performing well, because that's the first entry point into an agent performing at all. Because if you don't understand what the end user is saying, the conversation never proceeds. So that one aspect we evaluate by continuously feeding in different inputs about the same topic or about the same scenario. The way to do it is simulation. So essentially, an AI system is talking to the AI agent that you've built up. So we pick out different scenarios around, okay, this is a case where there's a compliant customer, he's having a conversation, he's not objecting to things. And there is a customer who is super annoyed. he has contacted you multiple times, he's not gotten a resolution, and he's not going to have a conversation with you. How does the agent perform there? Or he's talking from a high background noise situation. He's talking in a code mixed language. He's speaking Tamil and English or Tamil and some other language. What do you do there? So we feed in a massive sample size of each of these to understand how it's performing at that scale. And this is something humans cannot possibly do at this capacity. But where humans really become valuable is being able to figure out what those scenarios should be. So that's something that's unique to a use case that we build. So even though there's a certain possibility of templatizing this framework, I think it's still quite hands-on. At least that's the state of innovation we're in right now. And looking at post-production, it's you need to look at business outcomes as a second part of the problem. And the way we're looking at the evaluation metric right now is, one, we look at how the speech layer performs. We look at the prompt layer, which is going to tackle the hallucinations. Is the flow being adhered to? The node system that he was talking about, where did someone drop off and what does that tell you? All of those. And we then look at how one system failure is impacting another. Like for example, if a person said yes, but the system recorded no, the ASR system, naturally the disposition of that call is going to be wrong, the outcome of the call is going to be wrong. So that level of interaction between these different parameters is what we're trying to build into the evaluation layer. And that naturally then provides you insight on the business outcome. You can make an informed decision of why your collections has not been meeting the benchmark, why your conversions are not good. As an extension of this, what we're trying to do is, now you have all of this data from evaluation systems which tell you what's going wrong, what's breaking, but how do you, who does the job of feeding it all back into the agent, right? And this is again a scale problem where when you have 20-25 agents operating per use case in a bank, nobody has the intellectual capacity, or for that matter pick up all of these different contexts to improve agent by agent. So I think where the world is heading next is building self-learning loops with these agents where the learnings are collected across the board. You also look at scale specific data where, hey, this repeated in the last month run and it's happening again. So maybe something to revisit. So that is all what we're looking at, and then trying to set up a loop where the prompt improves constantly, the workflow improves, and then you measure it and get data. What you consume is the outcome, and you don't have to really go into the engines and try and fix it.
Thanks for that. I think we ourselves are like super bullish about having self-improving agents. Like a whole bunch of framework that's available out there, but still in the super early days. I think anybody who gets that part is actually solving the most valuable problem in the agentic space, which is reliability. So my next question, sort of open to all of you all. While we are en route to this promised land, which is this fully autonomous agentic future, and we all spoke a little about the human in the loop systems that we have. I would like to know how you guys have these small human in the loop framework working for you today, and what has worked well, what hasn't worked well. How do you see that sort of scaling or sort of disappearing? Any light on that?
Today we do human in the loop in two parts. The client themselves also are part of it. I think the way our industry, at least the product that we're building, are technically replacing the call center jobs. So even though that seems like a evil incorporation move, I think what has happened as a shift in industry is these are the folks who now don't do the calling like 8 hours a day, but these folks are now doing the manual QA on the agents. So that way there's like a shift in work that has happened. And the second part of the work is of course like dealing with customers who are more second response and not the first layer, which agents are doing right now. So I think there's more value in them doing something that requires a pure human connection as opposed to calling someone and saying, hey, we have a credit card offer, do you want it, right? So I think better use of time that way and the shift in industry. Second is we are doing it within the company as well as like a testing system. So one, we have a sanity check each time we put out an agent, how it performs, and we apply the learnings cross agent and cross customers. So I think growth in terms of our team has also been working with these different customers, and now we don't tend to make mistakes that we've learned from already.
So I think there is no right answer here, but what I mean is there is no one size fits all answer here. It's just the way or the position that you're in. And so what we realized is anything, and coming from a startup, anything that involves human resource will struggle at scale, especially if you want to scale to a level where you would have complete autonomous things running. So in that sense, what we try to do is, taking a contrary position, we try to remove the human in the loop, and that is where research helps us a lot. One of the research that piqued our interest is the LLM judge framework that has been happening. It's a very active area of research. I think everyone should look into it. So we created our own proprietary LLM judge framework, which helped us in terms of solving this evaluation and taking a look back at not looking at 10-15s of agents, but looking at the judge report. So if you want to sit around and individually evaluate each and every agent that your system is running, then you are constrained by the number of people that you have, and you are constrained by the time they put in to do the evaluation, right? So if you have a system in place which helps you find a report of sorts, again, this is no one size fits all question, but it's almost like necessity is the mother of invention kind of situation, where if you can't find good annotators or if you can't find good evaluators, you try to evaluate in a way that you are able to solve it via the boundary in which you can operate. So we were able to build a LLM judge system which started evaluating our agents, and now our job, or the way that I work currently, is look at the judges report on different agents, and then decide which agent should get priority in order to improve. And going back to the original question, which is the promised land of fully autonomous system, the fully autonomous system could happen if the fundamentals of it are kept right. What I mean by fundamentals is, we assume that AI is a different black box altogether or different machine altogether, but it still operates in the world that we live in, still operates within the boundary that we live in, and the engineering principles that we try to follow still values here. One of the key things that I try to ground myself at all times is, I don't know if you guys know, there is a guy called Rob Pick. He's one of the guys who wrote the Unix system, and he's also the guy who invented Go programming language, part of the team. So he has 5 principles for designing good engineering or good engineering practice, and the third point loosely translates to keep it simple. So even if you want to evaluate or go to a fully autonomous system, if you architect it around the framework of keeping everything simple and grounded, you'll be able to go there. Within your use case or within the area in which you operate.
Thanks for that. So, yeah, sure. Sorry.
I think for us, the way we're doing it is any agent where the LLM plus it's a planned action, like it's a very step-by-step method that can be automated in a very decent way, where you may not need human in the loop. For example, take an example of what we are working with, Cast24, for example. They have a top of the funnel where the cost of call is 5-6 rupees, and the idea is to call and ask the people, are they interested to sell their car? So there is just, you ask if they're interested to sell the car, they say yes. You put it in the Salesforce system, ask what is the rate they're looking at, feed in the Salesforce system. Now it's just a step-by-step method, doesn't require too much of conversation, no edge cases, that can be automated completely. Now the same funnel has a bottom of the funnel where you have to negotiate the price and you have to close the deal. There we always have a human in the loop in the back end where it does a direct handover to the human. The agent starts, we put guardrails in place saying that it cannot go below 5 lakhs, but the best price to close will be 3.8 lakhs. And we put a brain like a ChatGPT 5.4 where it's a lot more good at reasoning and it negotiates with the end customer. Now what happens is when you negotiate with the end customer, at times there are edge cases which can come up. At that point, it's very important to have the human in the loop. So in that case, the human comes in, takes over from the agent at one point saying, I'll get to my manager, and then it transfers it to the agent comes in and tries to close the deal. So I feel the top of the funnel use cases where the cost of call is not too much, there you can, and if it's a planned action, there I feel you don't need a human in the loop. We've been able to do that successfully. But if it's bottom of the funnel where the cost of call is around 15 rupees, it's a conversion in place, there having a human in loop right now is still required based on what we're seeing.
Since you mentioned cost, right? Sophisticated technology, building sophisticated technology is one part of it, and on the other hand, measuring accessibility, it's right, like ability to afford this piece of technology. So we have an interesting mix of folks in this particular panel where some of us are selling to an Indian market, which is extremely cost conscious, and then some of us have more of a universal mandate. What's the most difficult part that you guys have faced when you're, especially probably this question is for folks who are selling in the Indian market, right? How do you sort of ensure a decent piece of tech has been delivered at the same time the costs are made as affordable as possible? What are the biggest challenges that you have faced?
I think we still haven't cracked it. It's an ongoing problem. But if we, just pick an example, like for example, you put out 5 different use cases in the market for a client, and it could be lead generation is one, collections is one, just calling customer to remind them about their loan is another. The way to do it is figure out which use case needs what exactly to go live. You don't need a GPT 5.4 to do a reminder calling to pay off the loan, right? You can do with a smaller context LLM. So we do judicially pick what type of solution works for which use case, and this also means designing your prompt in a way where you don't need to use high number of tokens for a use case. That's simple enough. So cost there goes down, which is compensated for by another use case, which is probably more conversant. There's negotiations involved, you have to convert. So that's how we're sort of trying to balance. But the real challenge is, of course, clients wanting the world, and yeah, that's something I'm battling with.
See, if you can sell in India, you can sell anywhere. How very simple to believe, because India, if they pay you in 1 rupee, the clients own you. Like they'll call you whenever they want. You're basically the same if they pay you in 1 rupee. I don't mean any disrespect, but this is how the clients are in India. So in India, the way you look at it is, especially when you're selling in India, ElevenLabs is an expensive product. So first you need to justify that cost. That is a big thing. Second, the cost per call in India, the human cost in India is sometimes as cheap as the agent. So when you go to UK, US, you'll be like, oh, we save you 200% ROI. It's great numbers when my US counterparts talk to me about it, but in India, at times I've seen places where the cost of agent is more expensive than the cost of humans. You say I run a call center in Bihar and it's much cheaper than you running your agents. So in those cases, very hard to counter. Like how much ever we do, we cannot counter that, and I think that's an APAC level problem. Even in Indonesia, ASEAN, that's a problem. So, but volumes are huge. So the way we try to look at it in India is give discounted pricing, play in the volumes. Even though we have lesser margins, try to make the volume game. That's number one. Number two, India, they require a lot of languages. So in languages, they want dialects. Now in Hindi, they want Bhojpuri in one area, they want regular Hindi in one area. If you speak to a Maratha guy, a guy who's speaking Marathi in Hindi, he gets offended. So there are a lot of those nuances which we need to look at. So the way we, at least what we've started in ElevenLabs initially start with to capture India market is Hindi, English, Tamil is 75% of the spoken English market. The spoken AI market or the spoken market of say India 1, which is the tier 1 cities, it usually covers that. So we've gone ahead and launched Flash and Turbo models which covers that particular portion of the business. While we are also working on V3 and V4 internally, which covers another 12 languages, which should cover 95% of spoken languages. That's one aspect we've done to cover India market. Apart from that, a personal initiative which I've done is when I